Hello everyone, welcome to Southern Wreaths. Make sure you watch my video till the end for a sneak peek at my next video. Today I'm going to make this 3D pumpkin wreath. These are the supplies I'm going to use to make this wreath. I am using the 3D pumpkin wreath form. I got mine at Dollar Tree last fall. And I'm using some burlap that I got from Hobby Lobby. Walmart also sells this, but this came out a little bit cheaper when Hobby Lobby had it half off, so I got it there. But either one works fine. I believe it's 5.5 inches and 10 yards. Alright, I'm just going to use hot glue to attach the burlap to the frame. And I had just folded it over because I need it to start at an angle. And I will be squeezing these bars together as I'm adding the burlap, so it creates like the lines in the pumpkin. You want to be careful with where you put the hot glue because it will show through to the front, especially if you touch it. But the cool thing about squeezing these together is that you can fit the burlap through, so it makes it a lot easier than having to like cut and feed it through, and then you'd have to guess at how much you had. I'm not really paying too much attention to how far apart my wraps are, but you could do them as even as you want. That wasn't really my concern. I kind of like the way it looks a little different. But you do want to overlap. It makes it where you can't see through. You don't want to see the bars. And it makes it really sturdy. Now this video is a lot longer than my other videos, and that's because the way I'm wrapping the burlap, I'm doing it a specific way so that if you do it the same way that I'm doing it, you will only need one roll of burlap. Now once I get to the bottom, I'm going to pull it through, but I don't want that clump right there, so I have to fix it. Now I feed it in between the bars, but I take that back out in a second because it's not necessary. Once you start twisting, you can't see the bar. You do want to squeeze them together at some point. Even if they overlap, it's not a big deal. You can pull them apart. That's what's great about it being a wireframe. But see, I pushed it back through because it wasn't necessary to have it stick through there. Okay, I am flattening it out so it's not folded. I don't want my burlap folded. And then I'm just gluing it so it'll stay in that particular spot. So when I pull it through, it keeps the bars covered. And you don't want to pull too tight through the center bars because they will squeeze together. And you do have to fuss with it sometimes. But this wreath turns out so beautifully. It's actually one of the most popular ones I have on Pinterest. I made it last fall, and this one's slightly different, of course. But when I made it, I put it on Pinterest. It was, when I first started doing Pinterest, and I think I had like over 1,000 people pin it within that week. So it was a very popular pin. Now you'll see sometimes you have to unravel it and go back and fix it. And then I like to just, after I squeeze or pull it tightly, I like to separate the bars again to get it where I like it. And here's a little trick you can do. You can just keep wrapping it around. And then once you wrap it, where you think you've got it, where you want it, you can pull it apart. And then there you go, your thing's wrapped. And be careful when you're putting glue, even on the back, because once you pull it tight, it'll turn the burlap and then you'll be able to see it on the front. And that's actually what happened right there. When I pull it in a little bit, the glue comes around to the front. All right, the part right there where the stem is, I'm not too worried about how that looks because it's going to be covered up with a bow and the leaves. So I'm not being picky about how that looks. You could probably make it look a lot better if you wanted that part shown. But I'm not worried about it because you're not going to see it. And it saves on burlap from having to, you know, twist it around more and make it look nicer. All right, I am going to speed this up for you a little bit so you don't have to keep watching me do the same thing over and over again. But I thought with this particular video, it was important to show you how I did it so that you can do it the same way. So once I got to the bottom, I wrapped it around and then I kind of make like a pocket where some of it goes around to the back and some to the front. And then I'll just glue it. It kind of folds over. And then I just twist through the bar and make my way up the other side. All right, once I get to the top, I'm going to cross over the one that I had there before. And I'm pulling it through the stem and I'm going to zip tie it. And as you can see, the only places I have exposed now that I need to cover is the little spot at the bottom and this part on the side here. And that's why I thought it was important to show you how I wrapped it so you can save burlap. Because if you tried to do it all in different sections, I would think that you might run out of burlap. And there's no sense of having to have 2 rolls when you're only going to use a little bit of one. Okay, so to wrap this, I'm just going to fold it over, glue it down. Like kind of glue it to itself. But I did want it to look wrapped just because it's on the edge. So I started over to the left a little bit. And it's not just going to glue to itself, it's also going to glue to the existing burlap that's there. Be very careful because the glue will come through the holes in the burlap. And I twisted it around twice. And then I crisscrossed. Pull it through again through the stem and secure with a zip tie. All right, and now I'm going to take the piece I have left over and I'm actually going to trim it down so that it is more square or a rectangle shape. I'm just messing with it right there to make sure it's going to cover. Save those pieces because at the end I do need a piece of that to cover something. This one I did have to fuss with for a second to get it to sit right. But once I got the whole back glued down, it worked out okay. I didn't want you to have to sit there and watch me hold it while the glue dried. So I skipped ahead, and then I'm just going to pull it around and glue that part down. And then I'll trim away what's sticking out. But I do hold it until it dries. I just skip that so you don't have to watch it. Because if you let go too soon, it will move. And I'm just going to glue down any strays, and then I'll trim it away. And my scissors were a great way to hold down something while it dried, if it was in like a tight spot where I didn't want to just stick my finger in there. So now that it's all wrapped, I'm going to add the tulle. This tool is so pretty. It has like metallic copper leaves on it. I actually got this at Dollar Tree last fall. I bought 2 rolls of them. Now, I have seen tutorials where they will add the tool to the very back, but I wanted mine to be in the front. I didn't want it to be pushed back. And it's the perfect length to go across. You do want to be careful when you're adding your hot glue, because if you add it too far to the sides, you'll be able to see it from the front. So you want it to be over enough to where it holds it where you want it, but you want it to be in enough to where you can't see it from the front. Because the burlap wrap parts are kind of like round. And then you just move it where you want it, and you cannot pull it tight. If you start to pull it tight, it'll leave wrinkles in it. So as I'm gluing, I'm gently pushing it to where it needs to go. And you can do it a little section at a time. You don't have to do it like the entire row. You can just add some and hold it, you know, and let it dry. But for the most part, it laid pretty still. There are still some wrinkles, but there's nothing that's super noticeable. You can see right there when I pulled it, it made wrinkles right there. So then I just released it and it kind of smoothed back out. And then I trim it away. And you can see on the corners where it's sticking out. I will go back and trim those. I don't think I recorded doing that. Now for the sides, it's a little bit different than the middle. I hold mine where I want it to lay, where I know that it'll, you know, reach to the other side. And then I'm going to glue to the right. So I'm not letting go of it because I don't want to shift it or move from where it's at. Because since it's curved, I wanted to make sure it would reach across. And then after that part dried, I can let go because it'll still, you know, it'll hold it in place now. And see, I'm just like gently tugging. Because if you pull, it does leave really huge wrinkles in it. Because it's rounded. Alright, I've turned it around and now I'm going to do the inside. And I'll do that one pretty much the same. I'm going to start in the center. And then after that dries, I'm just going to glue one side and then I'll glue the other. I think that's the best way to describe it. You just let it lay down and then you just kind of push it over until it's smoothed out. I think this tool is so beautiful. It's even pretty on the back. So if you didn't want to do the copper, you can do this really pretty color on the back. One of the ribbons I chose to use has a coppery color to it, so I thought it worked perfectly. All right, I'm not going to make you watch me do the other side because I do it exactly the same way as I did this one. But I'm just going to trim everything away once it's dry. And you do want to make sure it's dry because you'll pull it up and then you have to fix little holes. And I do go back through and see if there's any holes and glue those down. And I'm using Gorilla glue sticks. It holds better than the Dollar Tree glue sticks with things like this. Alright, I made my bow, and I'll link to the video here of how I use my bow dabber to make a bow. This one is just going to be a little bit different than what I do with the bow dabber. Once I make it, I'm going to fold the ribbon of my choice, into threes, and then I hot glued it a little bit, and then I just put it through the center, and I'm going to tie a knot. And you can tie it as tight as you want, as loose as you want, and then I'll double knot it. All right, these are the leaves I'm going to add to it, and I'm just pushing up the leaves to the very tip of the stem. And then I'm just pulling it apart because I'm going to get an idea of where I'm going to add it. And you'll want to do this before you attach anything, because had I attached it the way I'm bending it right now and then tried to put my bow covers up most of it. And I'm just using a zip tie to hold it in place, which is kind of nice because then I can slide it down or up if I need to adjust the leaves. And I'm just turning them around so they'll face me. And see, I noticed when I added my bow, you couldn't see the leaves. And I really wanted them to come out on the sides. So I pushed the zip tie down, made them wider, and then I just trim away the bottoms. And then to add it, I am feeding a zip tie through the burlap. And then I'm just going to attach it right there at the stem. I do want to leave my stem open because that's how you hang the wreath. But if you wanted to wrap it, you could, and just add a pipe cleaner to the back to create a hook, or any way you make hooks on your wreaths. I did put the zip tie in between the stems so that I have a really good secure hold on it. And then I'm going to attach this with a zip tie. I decided to do zip ties instead of pipe cleaners just because I can tighten them easier with the burlap and feed them easier because they're stiffer than pipe cleaners. And I am feeding this through the actual tulle and burlap. So it's going to go around the entire burlap circle thing right there. And see, the copper on the like burnt orange ribbon matches the leaves. I thought that was pretty neat. All right, once I get it where I want it, I'll just trim that away. And then you want to move your zip tie so it's not sticking out of the back. I didn't like the fact that I could see the white zip tie. So I'm just taking that scrap piece of burlap that I saved, and I'm just going to glue it. Again, I'm going to make like a rectangle. And it's actually folded in half. And I glue it folded in half. And that just makes it where you can't see through it. And then I'm just going to hot glue that onto the area where the zip tie's at. So I used every piece of burlap, which is kind of cool. No waste. And if you get a roll of this wool, you can make almost two. I think I ran out of one section. Okay, I'm going to show you how I make my vines. I just feed a pipe cleaner through some mesh tubing. You'll want it, the pipe cleaner on the inside, to be as close to the same color as possible because sometimes the little furry pieces stick out. And you kind of have to work with it a little bit to get it down there. You do want to pull it tight and then tie a knot. And then you'll just trim that away right up against the knot. And then I'm pushing the pipe cleaner up so that it stops at the knot. And then I'll hold it and pull tightly. And then I'll tie a knot at the other end. And I do end up making 4 of these. I only did 2 at first, but I needed more, so I went back and made a couple more. And then to get the twirl, you can either use your finger or like I just used a pin. And the cool thing about them being pipe cleaners is you can attach them and then you can move them wherever you want them. And you can do as many as you want. And I'm just twisting it and it's twisting it through itself around a couple times. And that's it. That's how I made my 3D pumpkin wreath with tulle. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below, or you can email me at craftingwithlee@yahoo.com. And if you make this wreath, I would love to see it on my Facebook group, Southern Wreaths and More. Thanks so much for watching, and if you liked my video or learned anything, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.